Hey, before we dive in, a quick heads up. This series is called Validating the BPD Life, and that's exactly what it's here to do. Validate the experience of living with borderline personality disorder, hopefully making you feel a little less alone. That said, if you don't have BPD, there's still value here, especially if you've loved or currently love someone who does. But fair warning, we'll be talking about some heavy stuff. Self-harm, self-destructive behavior, hospitalizations, and a lot of emotional pain. You might feel grief, guilt, anger, rage, shame, or confusion while watching. And if you do, that makes sense. Don't judge yourself for feeling anything. Don't shame yourself for being triggered. Emotions show up for a reason, even if you don't know that reason right away. If it helps, try saying, "It makes sense I'd feel this way after everything I've been through." And if you've ever been hospitalized or felt like you were losing your mind, I wrote a book about my own experience at a psych ward, and you can grab it at the link right here. Or here. To be honest, I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, so I'm just going to say grab it. It supports the work I do and might help you feel a little less lonely on this journey. All right, without further delay and nothing more to say, buckle up, Buttercup. It is time to walk the middle path towards common humanity and a wise mind. There are so many ways a child learns to disappear. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like shape-shifting. Sometimes it looks like a high-functioning, overachieving kind of pain. Some of us had a parent who went quiet when things got loud, who chose numbness, distance, or distraction, not necessarily because they didn't care, because they couldn't bear to care too much. So they shut down, and we internalized that as rejection. And some of us had a parent who came too close, who blurred boundaries emotionally, psychologically, who needed us to reflect back only what was pleasing or to feel for them or instead of them. And many of us had both. Two opposing storms that still left us soaked in the same thing: chronic invalidation. That's the thing about BPD and early relational wounds. There usually isn't just one cause or one story. There's 1,000 tiny contradictions. Be your own person, but don't upset me. You're too sensitive, but also, why don't you open up more? You should know better, but don't act like you know everything. So we learned how to read a room before we could read ourselves. Some of us got so good at sensing emotional shifts in others that we forgot what it felt like to sense our own. And because connection felt fragile, we clung to it, or contorted ourselves to protect it, or sabotaged it before it could vanish, or disappeared emotionally so no one else could first. For me, there was a kind of double bind. One parent who coped by disappearing, another who coped by clinging. I lived in the space between absence and enmeshment, and still, neither really saw me. Not my real feelings, not my boundaries, not my early instincts about what was too much or not enough. I wasn't only lonely, I was shaped by that loneliness. By the way I had to contort myself to keep the peace, or stay small enough to avoid tipping the emotional scales. And I know I'm not alone in this. Many of us, especially those living with BPD or traits of it, grew up trying to decode emotions that weren't our own. We were often called dramatic or hypersensitive when we were actually just deeply in tune. We were labeled as unstable when our environment was unstable and we were just reacting to it. We were often called needy when what we needed was some predictability, safety, and care. It's complicated. Some of our parents did the best they could, and that best wasn't enough. Some were carrying their own trauma and passed it on anyway. Some loved us and still didn't protect us. Some saw our pain and couldn't hold it. It's not about villainizing them, and it's not about excusing them either. It's about naming the both and. The I loved them and I needed something else. The I understand why they were like that and it still hurt. The they had their wounds and I still carry mine. If this resonates, it's not because you're broken. It's because somewhere inside you, you're still trying to make sense of love that felt unpredictable. You're still piecing together a self from all the roles you had to play. You're still figuring out what's yours and what was never meant to be. You're not alone. Not in the chaos, not in the ache, not in the slow, quiet process of relearning your worth. You were never too sensitive. You were attuned in an environment that told you to dull it down. You were wise in a system that couldn't hold your truth. You were alive in a house that demanded stillness. And it makes sense if you still carry that contradiction. If some days you want to disappear and other days you want to be seen so fully it hurts. If you crave closeness, but you don't trust it. If you're learning to validate your own experience while also making room for the complexity of everyone else's. That's not pathology. That's not a flaw. That's the wisdom of someone who had to make sense of love in an environment that didn't know how to show it clearly. And you are doing beautifully. You are not too much. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a whole person with a painful history and a powerful will to heal. That is not a disorder. That is a miracle.